This is the Leadjoy Xeno Pro. Is it good for fighting games? Let's find out. This is how the box looks like. It works for the PC, PS4, Switch 1 and 2, and mobile devices. Comes with this USB-A, USB-C cable. Check out how soft the cables are. How is this possible? Look at this. Here's the dongle. It also comes with a charging dock as well. You can plug this guy in like that, plug the cable in here, and then connect this to your PC. There you go. Oh, look at this. This dongle is also a pass-through USB-A port. That is something I've never seen before. And alongside with the default D-pad, you also get an extra cross-shaped D-pad as well. Once the controller is turned on, you're going to see this LED dot matrix screen here. It says Leadjoy. Alright, let's talk about the build quality. I really like how the controller looks. Got all the nice angles in all the right places. No flex whatsoever. In terms of the plastic, I would say it's not bad. It's not premium either. But this is not an expensive controller, you know? Wow, the controller looks really cool. Unfortunately, when it comes to comfort, this is not the most comfortable controller out there. You can see here that the angle of the handles is kind of vertical. It's slightly slanted out, but it's not enough. And the handles are kind of short. As you can see here, it kind of digs into my palm a little bit. Also, you can see how flat it is on the back side here versus something like this where it's more rounded off. You see that? You know, maybe I just have really big hands, and because of this, I feel like I can't really fully grip the controller. It feels really flat and thin. And to make it worse, the triggers are all the way up here. When you're using and holding the controller for a long time, I feel like my index fingers are always stretched out. On a normal DualSense controller, you see how the trigger is slanted downwards, right? This way I can relax and grip it pretty comfortably. But on this guy, as you can see here, my index fingers has to always stick out. I had pretty bad hand cramps when I first started using this controller. However, it does get more comfortable as you get used to it. I just wish that the triggers doesn't protrude out so much. If you're able to get used to the controller, we do have something that's pretty cool here, and Leadjoy calls it main/sub mode. Essentially what this is a shift mode. Let me show you what I mean. Download the Leadjoy app from the Microsoft Store in Windows, then go to config, under the default board, click on edit. Here you can see main, sub 1 and sub 2. Under main, all the buttons operate as they normally do. But then when you activate shift, so for example, I've programmed B here to be A and B. So in Street Fighter, that will do 2 kicks, and that can help me do overdrive moves without any mistakes. So what I did here is I've programmed L5 to be the shift button. I'm gonna hold it to activate. Now in the game, when I press B, it's just the regular old mid kick here, right? But when I press and hold this guy and B, check this out. 2 kicks. So it allows me to do something like this. I know that in some mice, you can have shift mode, but not on a controller. So this is the first time I've seen something like this. While we're talking about the app, let's go over it real quick. You can see here, this is my controller. Under config, you can remap the back buttons and really any button that you want. Now what's interesting here is the C button. It doesn't really do anything as far as I know. So what you can do here is you can program this button as a profile button. Go to one of these sub profiles. You can choose C. Instead of hold to activate, you can go toggle to activate. Now under the config page, you can program the joystick as well. And this is kind of crazy. You can actually program different curves. If you play first-person shooters, I don't. The triggers, you actually have 4 rumble motors here. This controller supports gyro as well. To the right of it, you have something called magic key. You can see here, magic key, and it is what it looks like. These are actually wearables. If you look at the picture here, look at this. You can attach it to your head or your feet here or your arms, wherever. They're essentially motion control accessories for your controller. I'm thinking maybe this is good for like VR games, or if you're playing an FPS and you need to lean out from a wall. So I can see that this is useful. I don't have them, so I can't tell you how they are, unfortunately. You can also add macros as well. You can input it manually, or you can record it. And what's cool here is you can define the duration as well. This is going to be really good for just frame moves. Alright, let's go around the controllers real quick. Let's start with the joysticks. As you can see here, there are these rings that you can adjust the tension. Now the tension's super light, but if I spin it the other way, now the tension's a lot stiffer. And you know what's cool about these stick caps? Is they're super soft. You can take them out. And the reason why they're removable is you can replace them with different caps. Look at this. And the sticks rotate pretty smoothly as well. Alright, let's move on to the face buttons. As you can see, they are really big. And I love it. You can see how much bigger they are compared to a normal button on a regular controller. These are mice micro switches. Because my hands are pretty big, so these big buttons makes me not accidentally press the other buttons. Even though they're micro switches, they have a lot of travel. Normally, I don't like micro mice switches, but these are pretty good. Shoulder buttons are nice and clicky. They go in on both sides. The triggers have a little bit of tension to them, but as I said earlier, the main problem is they protrude out too much. And even though I have pretty long fingers, they're not the most comfortable to use. You can lock them as well. And I do like the amount of travel that it has when locked. Honestly, these triggers are not bad at all. In fact, they're pretty good. It's just that the positioning of it is just too high up. And you do get 4 back buttons here. The 2 on the sides are good. But the ones in the middle, they're kind of hard to press. They're not very comfortable to use. They kind of slant this out a little bit to make it a little easier to press. But I would rather they move these 2 buttons up here to have extra shoulder buttons and get rid of these. Alright, let's get to the D-pads. So you get 2 D-pads, the default one and the cross-shaped one. To replace them, you just yank it out. And then you line up this little nub here to the top of the D-pad. Bam. So let's start with the cross-shaped D-pad. Now first, let's do a pivot test. Press it down. Alright, as you can see, there is clearly a pivot. The switches on here are also micro mice switches, but they are a little clickier though than on the face buttons. Now the cross-shaped D-pad in itself, there's no problem with it. The problem is actually this little concaved area around the D-pad. Now because of this, the D-pad itself sits really low. So whenever you press a button, you're hitting the surface of the faceplate. And I'm somebody who likes to use the D-pad around the edges. So unfortunately, because of this hole, this cross-shaped D-pad is unusable for me. And I don't know why controller makers keep on doing this. Look at this. That doesn't happen on the face buttons, but when it comes to the D-pad, they just all of a sudden dig a hole here to make it more difficult. The good news for us though, is you can get rid of this guy and put back the default D-pad. Because the default D-pad is a disc and it sits above the hole and it's pretty tall. So now you have a lot more travel. Now when you press a direction, you don't hit the surface of the faceplate anymore. Cardinal directions are pretty good on here for the most part. However, because it is a disc, it's a little looser than something like a cross-shaped D-pad. In the beginning, I kind of struggles with cardinal directions on this guy. However, as I use it more and more, I did get better at it. I can be pretty competitive with this D-pad. Double taps are nice and quick. You see that the buttons here, first of all, they're kind of thin and they're not very tall at all. So when you're using the D-pad, you can barely feel the buttons. Whereas on something like this, it's also a disc, but the buttons are raised up a lot more, so you can really feel your way around versus these thin and shallow buttons. Now when it comes to motion inputs though, the fact that these buttons are flatter actually helps with motion inputs. You can slide your thumb around a lot easier with less resistance versus something like this, where if you slide around here, your thumb will get stuck on the edges. So it really is a give and take, right? This guy is flatter, is better for motion inputs. This guy is taller and you can feel it more, but motion inputs is a little harder to do. I can do all of my combos on here pretty easily. Unfortunately, Jamie's instant dive kick is not as easily done, and that's because this D-pad is kind of loose. The good news is you can program these back buttons to up forward and up backwards to help with Jamie's instant dive kick. Look at that.
Come on, it's time to train.
Circular motions are very good on this controller. Charge motions are also very good. So yeah, this D-pad is probably better for a motion input game like Street Fighter 6 than a 3D fighter like DOA 6. Alright, it's that time for the polling rate test. Unfortunately, on Game Paddler, the Xeno Pro is not on there yet. So it looks like we have to measure this ourselves. And here we go. The max polling rate is 1000 Hz, just like advertised. The average is a little bit under that, which is understandable. And this has pretty good stability at 95%. Average input delay is just a little over 1 millisecond. And jitter is really good at 0.20 milliseconds. And these numbers are from the wireless dongle. Let's plug this in and test the wired performance. Max polling rate is also 1000 Hz. On average, it's just a tiny bit under that. Stability is higher than on the dongle at 98%. Average is about 1 millisecond. And jitter is improved over the dongle at 0.11 milliseconds. So yeah, these are pretty impressive numbers for both wired and the dongle. Final thoughts. This is actually a pretty cool controller. I really like the shift function. I like these nice big face buttons. And this D-pad here is actually pretty good for 2D fighters. Maybe not as good for 3D fighters, but overall I would say this is a good D-pad. But unfortunately, this controller is just not very comfortable to use. If you're able to stick with it and get used to the shape of it, then this can be a pretty solid controller. So hopefully for the next one, they'll improve the ergonomics of it, make the handles a little longer and more substantial, and also bring down the triggers a little bit more. This is too far out. And while they're at it, maybe metal switches instead of micromine switches. That would be perfect. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed the video and found it to be helpful. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more, and take care now.